to another EV Hangout. Rising tide lifts all boats. We're sharing ideas and coming to you live from Mr. G's workshop. But we got a roundtable discussion with great people from around the country. So we're going to do a quick overview of SEMA tonight, and then we're going to talk about, I have a mini truck update. Got my adapter plate, and it doesn't quite fit. The drive shaft is in the way for the front wheel drive of my 4-wheel drive vehicle, so I have to cut it. Actually, I got a former student alumni cutting it right now, blind. I don't know what's happening, but he's going to do the plasma cutter. Woo. But we're in a mad dash to get this thing going before the class coming up in a week and a half. My plan is to get it on the road, at least drive down the block. So, all right. So we're going to roll right in to the big update, which is SEMA. Last week in SEMA was an EV massive explosion. And the last time I was at SEMA was 2019. And that was when my the school vacation lined up, and which was pretty wild. And I was so lucky to be there 5 years ago, and now again. But this time, instead of it being just a few, maybe 2-3 EVs in a corner, it was like a whole section. It was huge. You know, you like couldn't even see all the different vehicles. So Talik was there, and we're just gonna run through it a little bit. That was a super cool event. Talik, what'd you think?
Well, what made it crazy to really capture and show how much was there was that it wasn't just isolated to the future tech corner of the hall. Like, so SEMA's like 4 big main halls plus outside stuff, but some of them, a lot of the EVs and EV conversions were actually peppered out in other exhibits. For instance, the Simple Green car was not near the future tech. It was actually on display with the Simple Green booth, which was over like in all the cleaning supplies. So being able to, it really was sprawling out throughout the entire show, plus outside. And then we had like the Battle of the Builders with the Dino. Ended up making, I think it was in the top 3 of the Battle of the Builders by Current in LA. So it's just a lot there. We spent a lot of time in the Switch Labs booth, or the Switch TV booth. And there's a lot going on.
Yeah, 100%. I'll show you I have some video right here of the Dino. The Dino is ridiculous. This is like a dream car. It's kind of like when you look at it, you can't help but a little bit of your breath gets taken away. It's like a fine woman. This is an incredible looking car. I will say my gasoline roots came back a little bit. This is probably the only car where I wanted to hear the V8 from Ferrari, you know, whoom, you know. It's like, this is probably the only one where I was, you know, but I got to tell you, this thing as a screaming EV, I'm sure it probably had a ton of power, and you could light up those tires, and you wouldn't want to. You don't want to ruin the paint on this thing or anything like that. I would just baby this thing and then hit it on the highway. I'm sure it performs well. This was absolutely beautiful.
Well, that and the interior, show me the interior.
Oh, yeah. The interior was ridiculous. Look at this. You guys seeing this? Unbelievable.
Does it have a light in the middle of the seats?
Yes, it does. Yes, it does.
Man, I should have gone.
It's pretty wild.
And the paint looked amazing in different lighting. So when it was outside, it looked a little bit more teal than it did in the hall where it looked more blue.
Yeah.
This is one of those cars that would get the purists like screaming.
Yeah,
like these Dinos are rare, and they really come up in value. But this is gorgeous.
Yeah.
Well, it's kind of funny. While I was inside, it was kind of by an entrance or like a passageway. So a lot of people walked by it and took pictures of it and had no idea it was electric. They were just like, "Oh my god!" It just as a build, it was amazing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And that's how it should be. Just like Tesla or any other EV maker, it should be based on, is the car good? It shouldn't just be, oh, it's EV. It should be, is this a high performance, efficient car that you desire to use? You know, that's what it should be. It shouldn't be, in the beginning, it was just, oh, EV to prove a point because we were limited on the lead acid batteries. Now, speaking of the lighting up and all the trickery and stuff, I found an old SEMA vehicle, and this was, believe it or not, these are tires that change color from Goodyear. But this is a Barris car and another customizer. I think 2 people collaborated on this. This thing probably was at SEMA 50 years ago if SEMA was around. I don't know.
Harris is the guy that did the Batmobile, right? Isn't that?
Yes, correct. And I got a nice interview with this gentleman here about it. He's got a museum, where they have the car there. So it was pretty cool. He showed me all the features, and we'll put this out. I'm sorry I forget his name right now, but we'll get there. And we're just doing it on the fly. Then they had some cool stuff. If you're into Fireball tools, I think Jeremy, I forget his name right now. I know that's terrible, but he's great. And he was right on the floor talking to people. And SEMA's a place where you're going to just see the paint situation, and the detail is just ridiculous. Just this is SEMA right here. Just ridiculous,
Yeah.
But to be fair, if you're in Southern California, this is like a normal Sunday, So
That's at the Low Rider show in Long Beach.
yeah. And we were in the Switch Lab booth a lot, and we did a whole bunch of interviews. Bodilio, amazing builder, was in the booth with us. And we were talking with Switch Lab, and it was an incredible experience. I'm so happy that they had me there. That was really nice. And that's Peter Oliver on the right. He's the founder and creator of Switch Lab, and he's really grown a lot. And they're offering more products, not just the Switch Lab vehicle itself, but also they can do a bench, and they can also do some other cool builds like this one here. Super cool build with amazing stuff. And then they managed to attract some really good talent into the booth. So on the last day, we actually interviewed a drifting professional. One of the videos hasn't uploaded yet, but this is Kelsey Rawlings. Super cool, very, very down to earth. She explained the whole experience of what it's like to be a professional drifter. And it was very cool. And we went over like what it would take to make her car electric, and she could still be competitive. So I was like, yeah, well, this is, Tesla's pretty good. It's, but this is the motor we're using, the Hyper 9. And she's like, well, I have 800 horsepower. So what do you got for me? And I was like, oh, okay.
Okay, you need 8 of those, right?
Yeah, that's me going, 800. All right. I mean, she's basically a NASCAR racer if you make the cars dance, So pretty cool stuff. And then this is like the Switch Lab kind of, like their bench situation. It's got all this trainer going on. Among a lot of companies that have the trainers, and they hire a lot of teachers, which is great. So it's very supportive. Pretty cool thing that, having in this booth. And we were, it was really cool because of the EV Hangout. I have to say, I want to thank the EV Hangout. That's all right. Do the next one.
Yeah, Ron's about to get into it. It felt like it was really just a meeting of like lots of people, because it switches up in, near the Bay Area. I'm in SoCal. Ron is in Jersey. And then it was just a meeting of all these people in one place. It was just kind of surreal because you're used to kind of picturing these people in different parts of the country. And then we're all in the same place. And it's just like, just this whirlwind of like, oh, show and tell this, show and tell that. Oh my gosh, what you got?
And we got big fans, and because sorry, that was a terrible joke. But the thing is that I feel really lucky to be a part of this community, and the rising tide for real lifts all boats. I mean, we were even talking to manufacturers about the coolant delete for the Teslas. And, this was a great interview right here. We'll publish this later. And, we were surrounded by friends. It was a very cool thing. I feel amazing to be there. Plus, all kinds of innovation. I caught this one real quick. I think I forget the name right now, but they actually won a top honor for doing 3D printing on their race car. So kind of a big deal happening. 3D printing, a lot of innovation happening. And And Formosa EV, we know Zach, and they won a top honor.
And Homebrew was there too. Homebrew.
Yep, Justin from Homebrew. So it was great because we know everybody, and it's kind of like such a cool thing having like an EV family. And when I got into this back in 2008, oh geez, there was like 5 people, maybe 10. Then there was like 100, and I thought that was a big deal. There's got to be like 1,000 people now, maybe more, who are doing the conversions, and it's great sharing ideas. We're all trying to help each other because we're still the underdogs, so that's why we got the
yeah. I overheard a lot of people walking through that section like, oh, we're getting into the electric crap. So
yeah,
there's people wandered in there that are not exactly EV friendly. So,
and to be fair to them, I say it's just an option, but look at this option with Eddie from Revolt. What an option! Oh my God, it's 600 horsepower, I think 1,200 foot-pounds of torque coming out of the
and now 3-speed sequential attached to it there.
Yeah, so there's a lot of good option solutions, and then we got some weird stuff, very expressive, exotic stuff like this. You want to tell us about TSK?
Yeah, so TSK, this is part of their dream cars. That's not their official term, but they basically make, amazing custom cars. If you've seen a previous SEMA build with the Mercedes Gullwing, that's basically a Model 3 underneath. That's the same company. So they come up with these crazy ideas. This is a chopped off roofless Model 3 where they reposition the camera right there, and the autopilot still works. And they were able to put a roll cage in there. In the unlikely event that an EV rolls over, because we all know that they're very low center of gravity. But yeah, that's a custom build, and that's paint, as we've talked about before on the show. And this is their California edition of their Model 3 here. And their main business is actually Tesla Collision, which actually my Model Y is currently in with them to be fixed. And I actually drove the Model S loaner to and from SEMA. So big thanks to TSK for providing a loaner while my car's in the shop.
Super cool. Yeah, that's awesome. Good to know about that. And then also some wild stuff, a blast from the past. This electric supercharger, I've seen this before, maybe 10 years ago, but they had an AC50 on there. Now they got a Tesla motor. Yeah.
The Tesla motor is just driving the blower on a gas engine?
No blower, just driving the crankshaft.
Oh, okay.
It's a e-blower.
Oh, so it's like a hybrid then. It's
yeah. It's like a parallel hybrid. Is that parallel?
Yeah.
Sort of. It's but in terms of crazy builds, we can't forget to talk about the Kei truck. The COE truck.
Oh, yeah. I wonder if I have that here.
I think I have some shots of that.
Okay. That was a pretty cool one in the
Legacy booth.
Yeah, Legacy was such a great.
Oh, it might be in that shot where we toured Future Tech. Oh yeah, from that truck we went over to the the one you were just on.
All right, so it's here. Oh, from here?
From the left.
This one.
I think we go from this truck to the big
now,
truck.
I saw this truck at Ohm on the Range. This is Southfield Customs. They're in, I think, Georgia, but they're using the Amper EV drop-in unit. So this is like, there's a company that figures it all out, and then you as a customizer don't need to figure that out. You just focus on what you do, which is metalwork, paint, restoration, glass, trim, all that stuff.
But
then wham, there it is. You called it. That was pretty good. Now this is wild. I really like this because it's a showcase. It's a functional Tesla motor hanging on the back of a truck, just hanging out there. And they got a V-drive from a boat pushing the wheels.
Well, it's not just a Tesla motor. That's one of the that's the CR43 Bravo from Revolt. So it's been tuned to the horse, probably 600 horsepower there.
Wow. Super cool. I think I get zapped right here. Nah.
Yeah, we did a whole gas and go of snow on this one, so look forward to that coming soon. It's got a V-drive. I actually got under there. I have a shot of the V-drive connection under there. It's
shout out to Amp Revolt Brandon in Lancaster, Pennsylvania for the box. I recognize it.
Yeah. That's nice.
And he's got a lot of solution. That guy's doing a lot of good work. It's not easy. Small business. So shout out to him for that. I taught a class with him years ago. It's amazing. It's amazing how much this has grown. So I really, there's a lot of interviews coming out. We're going to put them all out on the channel. But yeah, I think that kind of covers the overview. That's pretty good. Yeah, if anybody wants to, jump in with something now, otherwise I can give you a quick update on the mini truck that I'm building. I actually got my adapter plate in. I designed it quick.
Let's see that. I had other subjects we can push to another day. So we'll got you here. Let's go look at your adapter.
All right. So yeah, let's go take a look. So actually I could give you a quick how I designed it and in virtual space real quick. And this is the Swiss cheese edition of adapter plates. This is ridiculous.
Trying to save a few bucks, 10 cut send on the metal price or what?
Yeah, we're saving on the shipping.
Oh, that's it.
No, it's just that it's 1/4 inch plate. And so it's kind of like unnecessary amount of material in the middle there.
Yeah.
But if you tear it apart real quick, I'll just zoom in, show what's happening here. So you got your Hyper 9, which is not empty. It's just that, this is the model for it. And you got to have a coupler, which is this guy right here. Oops. And then you have an adapter. I had to spend a lot of time figuring out the pattern because no one sells it right now. And I found the pattern, and then I didn't bother with any aesthetics. I just need it to be cut. But I will show you something kind of cool. This detail right here. This is called a tab and slot design. And what you do is you actually laser cut this shape and they click together. You only leave like 5 thousandths in between there. And they click together, and then you don't need a jig. You just weld this where there's empty space. So it's a pretty cool design. They use this a lot with welding tables. And I got some advice from a friend, and he's like, yeah, just tab and slot. It'll just click together. Which it totally does. So we're going to head out there and I'll show you the real thing because it arrived today. Which is
now this plate that you're showing there, does that mount to the existing engine mounts in this truck? Or
that's the plan. That's the plan. You always want to go stock. So
right. Some countries that's a big deal. Not that these trucks are legal in many countries, but not cutting the frame and modifying the original car is important, especially in the EU.
Yeah. So as you can see, we're here in the shop, and I'll pin this spot. Oh, let me just pin that real quick. I don't know if Paula can do it. Can you pin it for everyone?
Yep, I got it.
Okay. And so this is the truck we're working on here. It's a mini truck. I chose that because it really kind of makes it super easy. Everything's like, how much is the tire for this thing, But here's our transmission. And this is where the engine went. It's a kind of a mid-engine design, but it does have 4-wheel drive. So this is your transfer case. And then this is your drive shaft that goes up to the front. And then your drive shaft that goes to the rear. And it's right-hand drive. It's got a stick shift and everything. Just kind of a lot of parts in here right now. And then we'll head over to the area here. So this is my plate. Now we had to make a cut just now. So I got one of my former students doing a cut, and it was because it was hitting the front drive shaft. And because of that, we had to do a plasma cut. So we'll get it closer. And then once it's done, there's the motor. We're going to put it on the motor. And this here is how it clicks together. You could see that it really makes a nice, it's so easy to do. I'll put it on this side so you can see it with the light. I don't know if you hear the compressor behind us, but
No.
It filters just voice.
Okay, good. Nice. So that clicks together, and then there's two plates. One of them goes up here. Now, the reason for the two plates is you need thickness because we have to get to the magic number, which is the offset. And I'll show you what that is. If you've never done a conversion by hand, it's the offset of the end of the crankshaft, the engine, to the face of the mating surface. So you have a mating surface, and then you have the face of the crankshaft. And believe it or not, I went and got a crankshaft and I chopped it off. And this is my adapter plate. My coupler. And I've cut it. I've bored it. And we're going to broach it soon too. I had to cut a hole for the broach. A broach is like a square cutting device. And it's going to cut a square into that, which will turn out really cool. Yeah, and I have a 3D printed model. I did a lot of 3D printing to get to this point, I will say. This was my plans.
If only you could 3D print the metal.
Yeah. You can see the keyway right there.
And that's what you need to broach, right? You need a square slot there.
Exactly. And I don't
lathe.
Yeah. I don't see the 3D printed one right now. But yeah, you could print in 3D. It's a good way to get to where you're going, but you do need to think about strength. I think there is some applications where it works, but one of the best things you can do is just use a caliper. And then, believe it or not, this is a verification plate. A thin plate from Send Cut Send is actually quite cheap, and you can use this to get an assessment of your fit. So you put it on the pin, and you put the other one on the pin. So pin to pin, and then I had a center here. You got to get to the center. So I used, believe it or not, I actually used this first. This had the correct offset, and then this went in here like this, and it found my center. It's actually like this, and everything worked out great with this. Then I could go into my hard verification, and once I was done with verification here, hard amount of verification. I mean, you got to be within like 5,000s. And then I went into the actual plate, which is over here.
Speaking of calipers, Ron, you should, when you're done talking about the plate, let's talk about the scanner you saw at SEMA.
Oh, yeah. So basically, just to sum it up, it doesn't look like much, but the correct bolt pattern is in here. And the center is a 4-inch. And someone forgot this the other day. So I want to emphasize, you have to pick up this edge, and that gives you your centering action. So there's a lot of like engineering that goes into it, but really it's just measuring, you know? Okay, so that's pretty much the overview, and hopefully we'll have this.
What's your next step then? What's your next step, Ron? He left.
The next step is to weld that, to check to make sure that the adapter plate is not hitting the front drive shaft any longer. And then once it's not, then we're going to put the sides, click the sides in, and then we're going to weld it together, put it on there. Then we're going to broach the coupler, and we're going to try and mount the motor. And also we have to hook up the existing motor mounts. So once the motor mount, so basically like finish welding it, mount it, and weld it in. There you go.
Do you use the rubber motor mount still, or you're going to go right to
everything stock, as if you just don't tell it. Just don't tell anybody, it'd be like shh to the car, just don't tell it that there's an electric motor. But as far as that the car goes, it's just turning the shaft, the input shaft on the transmission. Other than that, it has no idea.
Do you need the flexibility of rubber mounted motor mounts, or do you just go right to the steel on the car?
You could do a hard mount, but let's see, what would be the advantage? Well, once you change, let's just say this, it's a domino effect. You don't actually need rubber mounts because you're not vibrating, right? But however, if you are changing one thing, there's always an effect somewhere else.
Yeah.
So if you have a rubber mount on the tail of there's 3 mounts. There's 2 side mounts, and then there's a mount on the back of the transmission. If you hard mount it in the front, then the back's going to take it and all of it, and then you're going to have to change that one too. Now, if you change that one too, all these mounts were actually designed for a little bit of flex because of the rubber. If you take away the rubber, now you got hard. So you could end up cracking some of them or bending them. So
okay.
Unless you plan on doing the whole thing, I would just keep it the way it is.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. That's my advice. But, if it's just like any other hot rodding. So like if you're going to, let's say you're going to, it's like, oh, someone wants to put a cold air intake in, right? So, okay, great. But now the exhaust is going to be different, so you can't just keep everything, once you change one thing, you're changing another, it's going to affect it.
Yeah.
So cool. All right.
You have the clip of the scanner, or you want to at least mention the scanner?
I don't know if I have the clip of the scanner. That was a cool scanner. I think the big feature of that scanner, I can try and bring it up. The big feature of that scanner was that the software, and I don't think I have a video for that, but basically what they did was once it was into the software would then, you could just click on the software and tell it your intention. So you say it had a base and it scanned it. You say, okay, I want the base perimeter and I want to extrude it. If you've ever done any CAD work, it's like CAD work re-engineering. It's like reverse engineering something based on a scan. Without that, you have you might get mush, where you don't know the intention of what you tried to scan. Tom's got a question. Go for it.
Yeah, just briefly, how is your build different from that Ben, his build?
Okay. Yeah, Ben's doing a great build. The thing about Ben's build is that I believe it's a Honda, and those motors are in the back of the car. So mine is in a different location. And my transmission adapter plate's different. So nothing that's on his car fits mine. Although very similar, Japanese Kei truck.
Yours is a Daihatsu though, right?
Daihatsu Hijet. Exactly.
Yeah.
And I've got, it's like, I think 30 or 40 horsepower. So
right.
Yeah.
That's
so,
what I'm hoping for you is there's more of these out there, and especially in states where maybe they'll never pass emissions, and you can sell your adapter plate hard engineering here. The first one was hard to make. The next 100 are easy.
Well, I've got the pattern, and I wouldn't say my Swiss cheese represents the best engineering. I'm kind of rushing it right now, but I've got the pattern, and that would be the hardest thing to get. Now I got the pattern, I think, and then now we're going to cut away for the drive shaft. I'll probably re-engineer it on the next one. And but yeah, I mean, this is, if I could provide a solution for someone, that would be awesome. And these are great EVs. I honestly think you might not need the transmission because it's such a good vehicle, and it's 5 feet wide. I think that fits through a double door. So coffee trucks that want to go inside a trade show, warehouse pickup, go in the back door, and then you don't have to worry about the emissions of the vehicle. I think these are actually really good vehicles. Don't get me wrong, though, you don't want to go down the road 60 miles an hour and get hit because your feet are the bumper.
Yeah, but if more of our urban centers had these, that'd be great. If you want to check out Ben's conversation, he was actually on our SEMA preview episode, which is now live on the channel. So check out the SEMA preview if you want to see the talk with Ron and Ben about the K-Van.
Yeah.
I think
there you go.
Oh, now in about half the states.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I think they're legal in about half the states.
Yeah, and there was a fight to ban them, and that doesn't seem fair. I mean, the idea is that they're not safe, but how could they be any less safe than a motorcycle? I mean,
they were just fine in Japan, and that's a first world country too. So yeah, and
a year ago.
Yeah, so here's Ben, really nice guy. And yeah, we did an interview with him, which was cool. And then he says it's awesome, you know. And then the thing about it is that we're gonna share some ideas about it, you know, what motors and all kinds of stuff that he put in here. He had an issue where one of the motors didn't fit, you know, but it was pretty cool. I found this before I started, and I tried to message him, and I said, "Oh, dude, please give me your patterns." But I didn't realize I got a Hi-Jet, so or I think I got the Hi-Jet afterwards, so I got a different one, and he went with another type of pattern method. He didn't use the calipers. I think he rubbed it on a paper, and then he scanned it, and then used the scan. So there's many different ways to do it. But either way, and then, oh, here it is. Yeah, I guess he did the same thing I did. He chopped off a crankshaft. That's a move. Chop off the end of the crankshaft. That's a way to go.
It already fits.
Yeah, exactly. The front pattern already fits. The only problem with mine is that, see, I had to keep the hub, whereas he didn't. So I have a front hub that locks in. You have to worry about, like, when you engineer something, you need to think about what their intention was. So, for instance, if you look at this, I'll give you a great example. If you look at this, the front hub is hollow. So that is not how it locates. Mine locates a little differently. Mine locates like where there's this front hub part right here. Okay. Now you can't destroy that because then you're not going to locate properly. You know, it's going to hold on the bolts, and the bolts kind of move. So I had to design it where I had this thing where I'm locating on it. Now I had to tear into it to get my broach through. So it just makes it a little tougher. I think next time I'll just make it from scratch. But you have to think about the intention of what the company originally intended for this to work with. So I don't know if that makes sense.
Because are you keeping your clutch?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I'm going bone stock, no changes. Now on the second one, I think I could run this direct drive, but I want to keep my four-wheel drive. What's that?
Yeah, that was my next question, Ron, is like, through this whole process you've been discovering with your adapter plate and everything, you know, what's going to be simpler to crank out is like go Johnny Didion style direct drive, or to try to shoehorn this in with the original transmission?
Well, I'll tell you what, if I'm in fourth gear the whole time and I have plenty of power, then it's going to be fine. And I think, Tom, you talked to Ben, right? He just runs around in fourth gear.
Fourth gear all the time. Yeah.
Yeah. So if that's the case, 5 is usually overdrive. So if that's the case, I probably don't need a transmission. Transmission is, if people need a quick overview, it's kind of like a bicycle. You're going to have it's a hard time going up the hill. So you put it in first gear. It's too easy going down the hill. So you put it in 10th gear or whatever. And so you have two things. The two factors are you're either going to run out of RPM or you're going to run out of torque. And so you have to think in first gear, you're going to run out of RPM. You got plenty of torque. But in 10th gear, you're going to run out of torque. You don't have enough. You have RPM to go, but you can run out of torque. So, but if you got both, if you got torque and RPM, which is what a Tesla does, they run up to 16,000 RPM on the regular Teslas, non-plaid. And then in this case, I think that there's a low speed here. It's not like it goes 100 miles an hour, nor would I want to. So maybe we just do it with a 1 gear, and I get rid of the transmission, get rid of the bell housing, but keep the transfer case. Those are 3 different cases, so I can make an adapter to the case. Yeah, what do you think, Tom?
Yeah, and I this really gets into theory and power curve. One of the most graphic lessons I learned driving Michael Bream's red bus was, as a lifelong VW guy, I was thinking that I absolutely needed 4th gear. And he said, no, just carry on with, because 4th gear was shot in that bus. And I was thinking, oh, this is just going to completely cut my range in half because I didn't have fourth gear. Well, no, that wasn't the case. It did reduce the range slightly, but because of the vast power curve, you were able to compensate for that lack of high gear significantly. And it was a big learning experience for a lifelong Volkswagen guy who absolutely has to use all four gears all the time.
Nice. Yeah, because you have a bigger, wider range of power, which is just amazing.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate everybody being here. I'm gonna go ahead, Tom. What do you got? I mean, Tom.
Well,
Sorry.
Well, I was going to say my last question for you regarding the Kei Truck is more general about things from Japan imported because they weren't allowed in the U.S. What do you think is better to import, a Kei Truck or Kei car, Kei van, or a Skyline? We talked about this a lot at SEMA.
Oh my God. Okay, let me tell you something. Forgive me. I'm gonna say it. The Skyline doesn't capture my attention. But however, ironically, when I got back to Jersey, a friend of mine who's a machinist, he was helping me with the coupler. He says, "Hey, we got to go pick up my car. It's at my friend's house. He's got a couple of cars in his barn. We go over there. He must have 30 1980s and 90s Supras, all of them over 1,000 horsepower, some of them right-hand drive, and probably 3 or 4 Skylines, all of them hopped up with crazy, like, I think the bottom of the barrel over there was 1,000 horsepower. Most of them were like 1,500, and you're thinking, no way, yeah, like turbos like this, like I don't even know how it fits under the hood. I have no idea. All of them. And he says he can push a couple of buttons and he'll get 7-second quarter-mile passes. And he said that, but after that, he has to rebuild the engine. So what he does is he keeps it tuned down. He can push some buttons and it'll go down on the power map. He's got it all computerized.
The turbo, yeah.
Yeah. And it was funny because I was in an ocean of cars that, from an engineering standpoint, I appreciate, but I'm just not excited about the Skyline shape. So I'm just like, I don't know. To me, it looks like an old Japanese car. Okay, great.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
it is.
But for these people, these are like $250,000 cars, and then they tune them up. So they end up being more. It's like you would have, Talik, you would have laughed. I should have taken a selfie. And it was like an ocean of like 30 cars in a huge barn, and Kevin knows this is like upper close to New York City suburban area, like in a massive house. I was like what happened? But anyway, the Kei Truck, to be fair, the Kei Truck's not that it's like super exciting, because people are like, oh my God, a Kei Truck. I'm like, yeah, it's clever. I like clever stuff. I mean, the Dino is really what captures my attention, and I think everybody else's. But it's just practical. Like if you're doing a conversion, just do a Kei Truck. It's super cheap and everything's right there, and you lift off the thing and no problem. So, yeah.
Can you find a plow attachment for it so you can go now? You be plowing the neighborhood in that thing come winter.
I don't know if you have you need like some mass. I think that's a F-150 deal.
Mass, you just put some sandbags in the trunk. You got mass.
Oh, okay. Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, what are you
Got
going
all
to do
the
with
torque
the
in the
truck
world?
like that?
What's that, Ollie?
What are you going to do with it after you're done? What's the
Oh, this is
goal?
just demonstration.
Okay.
Yeah, this is just demonstration vehicle. So it'll have all the batteries are on the bed, which deletes the bed, but everything's out in the open. All the stuff is going to be right on top. So this is more demonstration, rebuild, take it apart, put it back together, take it apart, put it back together. You know,
It could be your around town Brown, though. I mean,
oh,
a lot of
wait, I almost forgot. We have an artist that is a neighbor here, and he does sculptures for like just Duran concert. They want a puppet that's like 9 feet tall. He'll do it. And one of the things we're going to do is we're going to do a fake larger than life drill battery jammed into the back of it. So it's as if you took your drill battery and the Kei Truck, like it's a toy, and just went click. and then, and then you drove around. I'm going to show you a photo of it. I have a little drawing. Here we go. And that's the plan. So we'll go to some car shows and
Christmas parades.
yeah, there you go.
Oh yeah.
So there you go. It's going to have a battery. We're going to write battery upside down because you clicked it in, you know.
Mhm.
And it's like I'm going to make it look like a toy, you know. Yeah. So anyway, yeah. Yeah. Any other updates before we get going?
We want to go to Doug real quick since he's on
Yep.
location.
Doug, aka Sparrow Explosion Man himself, is here. He's going to give us a quick overview of the Sparrow operation, which is kind of like a Corbin EV back in the day. If you know what we're talking about, it was back in the day, and it made it in the movie. What was that movie? The Spy Who Shagged Me or whatever. I don't know. It was in a bunch of spy movies, like spoof spy movies. All right, here we go.
It was in Mike Myers' Gold Member. That's what you were thinking of.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
And it's dark here, unfortunately, but I was asking them if they had a light. But this is the Sparrow that Dana Myers called me about that they inherited from her aunt, who I guess passed away or something. And I'm just here looking at it.
So the idea is they want to get this thing rolling again. There's no batteries. There is a motor controller, but at some point the batteries were pulled out because they were all toast, I'm guessing.
Yeah. This is a different version than mine. This one with the square back end like that, that's called a pizza butt. And the reason is because Domino's ordered a bunch of them, and I can send you a still, but Domino's ordered a bunch of them and, to deliver pizzas with back in the day, but they weren't engineered very well. They used Optima batteries, and back then they didn't have, they had DC motors and belt drive and all that crap. So I'm proposing basically a re-engineering of it using a hub motor, which Michael Breen thinks is idiotic. But you can see it's got a Kelly controller in there.
Yeah. Is it
And
DC now or AC?
It's still DC. This is a Kelly 24 to 120 volt 1000 amp controller. You see that?
Wow.
Yeah, I didn't know they made 1000 amp Kelly, but this thing will only draw 200 amps going down the road. So that's underneath the.
Cool.
There's the seat. It's in good shape. It's in really good shape.
Well, we know we're in good hands.
That
But
brand
I saw some McMaster car bags, so we know our hardware is good.
McMaster car, and these are actually these are LG Chem cells, Chrysler Pacifica cells, and they fit perfectly in the battery compartment. So
Nice. Did you bring those with you to try to revive this thing?
no, I'm actually up. I picked up my Smiley this afternoon. Remember, I couldn't ship it to Manila because it ultimately cost $14,000 to get it there.
Yeah.
So despite what said 2,500.
So, but they were already in here, these batteries, or you put them in there for testing?
No, I just happened to have them with me because I was shipping them off to Manila. And, this thing at 120 volts, the controller, these are 66 fully charged, so they should be fine.
Yeah. Try it out. See if some wheels will spin.
And Michael has the parallel cables for those two, so we can put two together. We can parallel two and two and two and get 15 kilowatts, which will take this thing probably over 100 miles.
Yeah.
So I'll do the math.
It reminds me of the Electromechanica 3-wheeler. They don't make anymore, but it was a couple years ago. They were fully charged live doing test drives. It was a 3-wheeler single seat thing, very similar.
Yeah, I've been trying to figure out where the molds are. Dana Myers said the molds are gone for this thing, but I got people that want to. It's a long story, but it's the 3-wheel acceptance in the U.S. is nil, but in Manila there's a ton of 3-wheelers and people accept them and like them. And this is enclosed, in Manila, and in the Philippines anywhere it rains a lot, so it's enclosed. And I think that with re-engineering, basically we could put a flat frame, a flat steel frame, and with a fiberglass body just bolted onto it. And when I went to the EV Summit, there was a company there that built vehicles like that, flat frame, fiberglass body bolted onto it. And I can tell you who they are, but it's meaningless to anybody. But yeah, so I got people interested in doing this. They go into business doing these three-wheelers.
Producing the it's a cool looking thing. So
with a
Hey,
yeah. I
hey,
mean,
Doug, is this the only one of this kind?
no, there were 275 of them made. Basically 175. The first 100 were jelly bean versions, and I can send you pictures of that. And then the other 175 or so were pizza butts. So
yeah,
I'll send you.
everyone, they're fun. Converted to lithium, getting rid of a bunch of weight and pepping it up. It's fun.
Exactly. I had mine weighed with the infamous Leaf batteries in them, and it was 1,280 pounds. So yeah, it's a little under the 1,500 that it had when it was lead acid.
Yeah.
Myers couldn't remember what he did with these, whether they were, he thinks he converted them to the prismatic lithiums, but he wasn't sure. So, but anyway, because of my little event, my thermal event in mine, I tried putting these, which I think will be a much better fit, the LG Chem cells. Certificate.
So you're going to drag it back with you today?
Michael, no. I just had them in my car because I just picked up my car from, from the.
I mean, are you going to drag the jelly bean back, the Corbin back with you?
I'm not. No, I'm up here to kind of assess it and tell them what's going on and talk about it. So.
All right.
Yeah, talk about it with them. He wants to get it running, and I don't blame him. This thing is going to be a killer. I mean, assuming the brakes and everything are, when I had to bleed my brakes because it had the old fluid in it and everything. But that's neither here nor there. I don't want to waste your time on the podcast with this. But yeah, it's a pretty cool car. Good shape.
Bringing old, cool, dead electric cars back to life again with modern technology. We like it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, if all it needs is batteries, we could actually. You have jumper cables?
No.
Okay, we could actually probably test it, with the two that we have right here.
Check in the garage.
They're only two and a half.
Get it done by the end of the podcast. We'll see it, but I think we got to move on to the SEMA Recap.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. Hey, Doug, real quick, can you just get a nice wide shot of it while you're standing there?
Do you have a big floodlight or something that you could put on here? All right. Well, I'll work on that. Yeah.
Cool. That was some good stuff, Doug. Thank you.
Can you see the belt drive?
Oh yeah, nice.
Yeah, and that belt, it's a toothed belt, and it goes up to the motor, which is actually the hub for the swing arm. So, yeah, it's kind of a weird design. A hub motor would be light years better in this application.
Doug, can you give?
It's a lot to learn on the older vehicles. Nice work. Thank you, Doug.
Thank you.
Good job.
All right. Well, Kevin hit me with it's going to be at 5, and I'm like, I'm on my way to look at this thing,
Yeah.
No, it's all good. That's great. This is perfect. All right, we're going to move to the next thing, Doug. Good job.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. No, for real. That's good stuff. I like all the classic electric cars, and it's a great way to learn, and I think it's a great thing to bring back to life, especially with new batteries. I mean, that was the big holdup back in the day. And now things have, and now the controllers got better, the motors got better, but really the big holdup was the batteries. Let me give a shout out to Ali for being here. And he's actually going to help my friend get his ass into a Tesla, put some butts in seats and let him drive the car. Ali, how's that going? Did you meet with him yet?
Yeah, I contacted him, but he was traveling and got sick, so gonna wait till he feels better, and then he's gonna let me know.
Hey,
yeah, all right.
Ali, give us an update on like some of the rebates of like the utilities here.
God, you guys take it for a minute.
So the 7,500 tax credit, you mean?
No, like the used EV credit as well as like the utility used credit.
Oh yeah, if you belong to San Diego Gas and Electric, they're offering an extra up to $4,000 for a
4,000.
used, 4,000, and that's on top of the discount you get from the government, which is also up to $4,000. So
For a used
that's
one.
for a used one. Yep. So to buy or lease a used EV, which is
yeah,
great, depending on your income qualification.
Richard.
learn more about that. So yeah, you just bought one, Richard.
Yeah, you just said the magic word though, income limitations.
Yes, you have to have income
But
limitations.
I just sold my Spark EV to another EV Riders Club member using this online dealer. So you could do private party to private party. And so this online dealer does the requirement that the dealer does the transfer. And their website was pretty straightforward and it worked out pretty good.
Yeah. It's called Key Savvy. You've
Yeah.
never heard of it, and I've heard such great things about it. It's super easy to do. I think it's
Yeah.
$99 for.
We just went through the process and it was pretty smooth. And then when there were a couple of questions, their support people were really good. So I just hope it doesn't all get
Basically got
shut
that
down
car
in the
for
new
free.
year, you know. But we'll see.
So he almost got that car for free.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll take a Spark EV for free. Those are fun little cars. In fact, it'd be kind of fun to, now that it's kind of entering an almost classic age of EV there, you know, they started what, in 2011 with those or something like that, to like hot rod an EV, an existing EV. So I think Ron is done for the night. He's got to get going with his class again. Any other updates from the crew here?
I'll give you previews for future episodes. I just put in a link to a golf cart that I acquired in the chat there. I sent the Dropbox link.
Jim.
All right.
It's a gem golf cart, and then somebody has to share their screen. That's, I guess, viewing it.
I'm getting find the tab.
I guess I could have done the same thing.
Let's see.
The idea is there's lots of these little golf carts that are, it's a 25-mile-an-hour neighborhood electric vehicle there. And you see the pile of lead acid batteries to the left that I pulled out of this thing, pulled out 500 plus pounds of lead acid and put in about 120 pounds of lithium. I'll probably double the range and bring it back to life. So the challenges of putting a BMS on this thing and getting the motor controller to remain happy and other things fall into play, but this was extremely inexpensive, using salvaged batteries that are taking up space in my garage basically, and flipping this thing around. So
yeah, so my brother, he works with UCSD in some capacity with the maritime, some sort of expeditions they do, but they're looking at buying a RAV4 EV, like the Tesla one, just for an around campus vehicle. And I was like, why are you looking at that? And he's like, well, because actually golf carts are expensive for some reason. So you can actually pick up a used EV for a little less than the price of a new golf cart. So taking an old golf cart and souping up, that sounds cool.
yeah, especially, well, these that have been sitting around, lead acid batteries have gone bad. That's what happened on this one. The charger went bad and then all the batteries drained to zero. Get that going again. And with lithium, gets a whole lot more range. And speaking of RAV4, that's another future episode is Brian bought not Jim Williams, Tony Williams' former company, QC Charge. And now they're really going through fixing up old RAV4 EVs and Teslas and Leafs. They specialize in the Leaf and getting them back on the road again. So Richard and I are expanding our tool we built for doing diagnostic on old Tesla modules and making it work for RAV4 modules, which are almost the same, but not quite. Being able to read these packs out of the car. So when the car was salvaged and the pack was pulled, being able to check if it's any good or not. Tools for that for RAV4, Tesla, and Leaf.
Yeah, I met Brian recently. Actually, Ali. It was one of those. He came to one of the the EV Options SDG&E test drive events.
Oh.
He just stopped by the Vista one, and he mentioned, "Oh, I have a EV repair shop in the area." I'm like, "Oh yeah, which one?" He's like, "Oh, you ever heard of QC Charge?" I'm like, "Yeah." It was like literally the week after he bought it. They're renaming it to some sort of. It has K. It's
Conduit EV.
Conduit with a K. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm actually supposed to go by there sometime soon and do a video tour of the shop. With now that
Yeah,
well,
let's dovetail that in here. So Richard and I were just there yesterday. They're really spooling up. Tony had kind of let it wither a little bit, and now they're really hitting it hard. So they're also coming up with a solution for 2011, 2013 era Leafs that are really good cars, but with crap batteries that are now 30 or 40 miles of range, putting in a new pack that'll get them like 200 miles of range. So we're in the neighborhood of 10 grand for parts. I mean, that's basically
that's really the thing about EVs is like there's the most of the hardware is really great, and the thing that everybody worries about, which is the battery, which the older ones, especially if you don't have liquid cooling, are very degraded. So I would love to do this with a Chevy Volt. Swap out the pack in there and double the range, give it 100 miles electric, but yeah, being able to keep, not to if the car doesn't need to be junked, keep it going. So we reuse the batteries when we can, reuse the motors, and then we recycle them.
Yeah. And in the case of these Leafs, it's usually the center batteries that go bad. They get the hottest. Pull the old pack out, put a brand new pack in at 200 miles, and then take the old pack apart, take the modules that have deteriorated, take them out, put good ones in, balance it back up, and put it back on the road. So he will be a future guest. They will be. It's multiple guys that have now partnered to buy out the shop there.
What about Tony? And how does this affect Alex up in Portland?
Well, as far as I know,
Alex is always his own one. So
yeah, Alex is kind of he's got a franchise. So his store is actually called Wattwork. So it's not technically QC Charge in terms of branding, but he's pretty in demand up in there in Portland area too.
Yeah, and he still does business with Conduit EV. I talked to him today.
Yeah,
it's all good, but Tony's out. However, Tony's old Studebaker is sitting there, a 1949 Studebaker pickup that needs an EV conversion. So in the future, it'd be great to do a shop tour and maybe get him on the podcast at the same time.
Yeah, I'll see what I can work out there.
Yeah.
Ron, you got time to sign off? I don't know if he's within earshot at the moment.
On there.
Well, I think unless there's anything else, that was pretty cool. We covered SEMA, we covered the Kei Truck, we covered the three-wheeler over there with Doug. You got the golf cart going. We got an update on the EV credits with Ali. Yeah, that was a lot.
Yeah.
So stay tuned, and we'll see you next time on the EV Hangout.